17 years. Can you believe it? An official U.S. government UFO investigation, Project Blue Book, running for that long.
It's quite something.
Thousands of reports, hundreds of eyewitnesses, people seeing something. And yet, well, what was the final answer? It's still this huge question mark.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today, Project Blue Book. This was a real U.S. Air Force program running from, what, 52 to 69?
That's right, 1952 to 1969.
Yeah, right in that Cold War period. It's fascinating how they tried to handle this phenomenon, balancing science, public fear, national security, secrecy, denial. It's all in there.
So our goal here is to really get under the skin of Project Blue Book. We want to look at how it started, what they actually found or maybe didn't find, the controversies that swirled around it, and, what kind of legacy it left behind. Where should we start? The beginning seems logical. What was going on that led to its creation?
Well, it didn't just pop up in 52. America was kind of buzzing with UFO reports back then. Sightings were way up.
Right, the post-war flying saucer craze.
Exactly. And remember, this was peak Cold War. Nerves were frayed. Anything unusual in the sky, that got attention fast.
So national security was a big factor.
Definitely. But Blue Book wasn't the first attempt. The Air Force had already, dipped its toes in the water.
Yeah.
There was Project Sign in 1947.
Okay.
Then Project Grudge in 49. So Blue Book was building on those earlier efforts. They were already trying to figure this stuff out.
Gotcha. So third time's the charm, maybe.
Yeah.
Where was Blue Book actually based, and what were we officially told to do?
It was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's in Ohio.
Right.
And officially, the mission was kind of twofold. First, figure out if these UFOs were, a threat, national security threat.
Makes sense for the time.
And second, to scientifically analyze the UFO data they were collecting from all these sightings.
Okay, scientifically analyze. That sounds good on paper. But how much was genuine science versus, well, managing the public?
Yeah.
Trying to find simple answers to maybe calm people down?
Ah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, scientific inquiry was the stated goal, sure. But imagine the pressure. All these reports flooding in.
Yeah, must have been overwhelming.
You have to wonder if the real priority became maybe subtly finding quick explanations, debunking things, even if the explanation felt a bit stretched, just to manage public perception.
Which brings us right to the cases themselves. The data they gathered over those 17 years, how many reports are we talking about?
It's a huge number.
Right.
Between 52 and when it shut down in 69, Project Blue Book investigated 12,618 sightings. 12,000.
Wow. Okay. And after looking at all of those, how many did they say they couldn't explain?
Officially. Around 701 cases remain classified as unexplained.
701. That's, well, it's not nothing, is it? Still a fair number of mysteries left over.
Absolutely. Almost 6% remained unexplained after their investigations.
Were there any specific cases from that time that really stand out? Ones that caught the public eye or were particularly puzzling for the investigators?
Oh, definitely. There were a few famous ones. Even just before Blue Book started, you had the Lubbock Lights in Texas in 51. Lots of people saw these strange light formations.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
Then there's the Mantell incident from 48. Really tragic. An Air National Guard pilot, Captain Mantell, crashed his plane, died while chasing an unidentified object. That really shook people up.
Yeah, it's chilling.
And the Washington, D.C. sightings in 52. Unidentified objects tracked on radar right over the Capitol, visually confirmed by pilots, too. That caused a major flap.
Wow. Radar and visual near D.C.? That sounds serious. Who are the people reporting these things? Just random folks looking up?
Not at all. That's what's so interesting. You had reports from highly credible people, experienced pilots, military, commercial.
People trained to observe.
Exactly. Law enforcement officers, scientists, alongside regular civilians. The variety and, frankly, the credibility of some witnesses makes it harder to just dismiss everything. It suggests something real was being seen.
But as you said, the official line often seemed to be pretty mundane explanations, right? What were the typical reasons Blue Book gave?
Yeah, the common explanations were often, let's say, conventional. Misidentified aircraft, stars, planets, weather balloons were a big one.
Ah, yes. The infamous weather balloons. Became a bit of a running joke, I think.
It really did. They also cited atmospheric phenomena, birds, sometimes even things like mass hysteria or just psychological factors. A bit dismissive, some felt.
This seems like a good point to bring in Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He's such a key figure in this whole story. Who was he, initially?
Dr. Hynek, yeah, crucial guy. He was an astrophysicist, highly respected scientist. The Air Force brought him in as a consultant, starting way back with Project Sign.
Okay.
And interestingly, he started out as a total skeptic. His job, as he saw it, was to use science to debunk these reports, find the conventional answers.
But that didn't last, did it? He famously changed his tune quite a bit over the years. What happened?
Exactly. The more he looked at the data, especially those cases that just wouldn't fit the standard explanations,
Yeah.
the really puzzling ones, the 701 unexplained ones perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
the more he became convinced that something genuinely strange, something anomalous was being ignored, or maybe even actively pushed aside.
So he felt the investigations weren't always thorough.
He felt they often lacked real scientific rigor, that there was sometimes a rush to judgment, forcing explanations that didn't quite match the facts presented by the witnesses.
And he developed that classification system, the close encounters scale. Can you remind us how that worked?
Right, his famous system. It was a way to categorize these encounters. A close encounter of the first kind,
Mm-hmm.
that's just seeing a UFO.
Okay, a visual sighting?
A second kind involved physical effects,
Hmm.
like electromagnetic interference, ground traces, heat, that sort of thing, evidence left behind.
Physical evidence, got it.
And a third kind, yeah, well, those alleged contact, seeing occupants, beings associated with the craft.
That system really caught on, didn't it? It gave people a framework.
Hugely influential. It provided a common language to talk about these different levels of experience.
So it's pretty clear Hynek ended up quite critical of Project Blue Book's methods. What was his overall take on the program by the end?
Yeah, he definitely had reservations. He's quoted as saying something like, "Some of these reports defy conventional explanation. Something is going on."
So that's a lot.
It really sums up his journey from skeptic to, well, someone who believed there was a real, unexplained phenomenon that deserved serious scientific study, which he felt Blue Book wasn't truly providing. He thought it was more about PR sometimes.
It sounds like that kind of dissatisfaction, maybe not just from Hynek, eventually started to bubble up, led to some outside pressure.
It certainly did. By the mid-'60s, around 1966, there was growing public concern, even some in Congress, about how credible the Air Force's whole UFO investigation really was.
Right.
This led to actual congressional hearings looking into Project Blue Book.
Ah, so Congress got involved, and that led to the Condon Report, didn't it? Which was pretty much the nail in the coffin for Blue Book.
Exactly. After those hearings, the Air Force funded an independent scientific study. It was led by Dr. Edward Condon, a physicist at the University of Colorado.
Okay.
The Condon Report came out in 1968, and its main conclusion, basically that studying UFOs for the past 21 years hadn't really added anything significant to scientific knowledge.
Ouch.
Yeah. And it recommended that essentially there was no need for further large-scale scientific investigation into UFOs.
So that report gave the Air Force the justification they needed or wanted to shut Blue Book down, which happened when?
The very next year, December 1969, Project Blue Book was officially terminated.
And the official reasons mirrored the Condon Report, I assume?
Pretty much beat for beat.
Yeah.
They said, look, UFOs aren't a threat to national security. There's no evidence they involve extraterrestrial technology. And therefore, continuing the investigation just wasn't a good use of resources. Case closed, basically.
But for a lot of people, researchers, the public, it didn't really feel like case closed, did it? There's always been the suspicion maybe more was found than was admitted.
That's the big lingering question. Was the official story the whole story? Did the investigation just go underground, quieter? The secrecy around the topic definitely fuels that kind of speculation.
And since 1969, things haven't exactly stayed quiet. The Blue Book files themselves eventually came out.
Right, that was a big step. In the 1980s, the full Project Blue Book records were declassified and made public.
So anyone could dig into them.
Yeah, researchers, enthusiasts, skeptics, everyone could look at the raw case files and draw their own conclusions, which, naturally, kept the debate going strong.
And then, much more recently, we've had these really high-profile moments. The Pentagon admitting UAPs are real, releasing those Navy videos.
Absolutely. That's been a huge shift in the last few years. The tic-tac, gimbal, go-fast videos. Seeing those released officially by the Navy, showing objects doing things current tech can't explain, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Plus the acknowledgement of programs like ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It shows the government's interest didn't just vanish in 1969. Maybe it just became more classified.
And then in 2020, the government actually started using the term UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, officially. It almost feels like we've come full circle, acknowledging something that Blue Book was meant to study but ultimately dismissed.
It really does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Acknowledging UAPs now, it makes you look back at Blue Book differently, doesn't it? Maybe it wasn't the final word, but just an early, very public attempt to grapple with something complex. The name changed, UAP instead of UFO, but the core mystery is the same.
It's also interesting how Blue Book has sort of seeped into pop culture, like that History Channel show, Project Blue Book.
Right, the TV series.
Yeah.
It's a dramatization, of course, billed as based on real events. It focuses heavily on Dr. Hynek, played by Aidan Gillen. It really captures his shift from skeptic to believer, and that dynamic they created between him and the skeptical military figure, Captain Quinn.
Yeah, the believer versus the by-the-book officer.
It highlights that tension that likely really existed within the project, science versus military procedure, openness versus secrecy.
And the show uses real cases as inspiration, right? Even if it adds fictional elements.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They dramatized incidents like a pilot's encounter near Fargo, the Lubbock Lights we mentioned earlier, seeing those glowing orbs.
Right.
So while it's definitely Hollywood, it does bring some of those classic, hard-to-explain Blue Book cases to a wider audience, blending the fact with, a conspiracy storyline.
So, wrapping things up, Project Blue Book officially ended in 1969, decades ago now. But the questions it tried to answer, or maybe tried to avoid answering, they're definitely still here.
Still very much with us.
Yeah.
Did Blue Book find more than it let on? Were important discoveries deliberately buried?
Or was it simpler? Was the government just stumped, unable to explain some things, and decided it was easier to just shut it down rather than admit they didn't have answers?
Those are the questions that remain. It really leaves you, the listener, to look at the evidence that has come out, the files, the testimonies, Hynek's own journey, and try to piece together your own conclusions.
Yeah, what do you think happened?
Exactly. And considering everything that's happening now, the ongoing UAP reports, the government's renewed, more open engagement, it strongly suggests the story is far from finished. Project Blue Book might just have been chapter 1. Makes you wonder what else is out there, unseen, unexplained, waiting to be understood.